Hey there, my name is Benjamin Moeller. I'm a paleontologist and creator of SHADOWBOX, which is the game that we're looking at right now. And today I'm going to demo some of the new features and exhibits that are available for you in Windows Beta 1.4. So everything you're seeing today is available in a free program that you can go and download on Steam right now. Currently just available for Windows, hopefully adding support for Linux and Mac fairly soon. And the first thing that I'm demoing right now, actually, is the new free camera feature. So previously, if you wanted to explore the exhibits in the mausoleum, you're just kind of walking around, running and jumping as such, and that's pretty good. But if you want to get a look at, say, this cave bear skull right here, and you want to get a look at it from another angle, now all you have to do is press C on your keyboard, and you're able to, with the Q and E keys, change your elevation, and you can now kind of fly around and look at the exhibits from all new angles. So that's the major contribution that my programmer, Brayton Brandis, was responsible for on this update. Unfortunately, Brayton is not able to be here because I'm recording this the day after we did the dev live stream. Unfortunately, my audio was not working, so you couldn't actually hear me when I was talking, and now, fortunately, you can. So let's go ahead and look at all of the new stuff that it's in this update. The first thing you're going to notice when you head over to the lobby here on the left is that I've added a number of paleogeographic maps. So each of these maps are showing an approximation of the Earth's continents back during these ancient periods and epochs. So starting on this side in the Ediacaran and moving to the right, you can actually see the continents first scattered. They begin to form the supercontinent of Pangaea, and then you can watch as Pangaea breaks up and the continents take on a configuration that we're more used to seeing in the modern day. So those maps are now available here, just above the mural in the lobby. However, in several of these exhibits, you can also see new maps that have been added. So for example, here in the Burgess Shale, and I've clarified here that while it's commonly called the Burgess Shale, the formal name of the unit is the Stephen Formation. So I've been sure to include both of those things for maximum accuracy, which is what we like to see. So when you travel back 510 million years ago to the Burgess Shale, you might not have an idea of what the world even looked like over 500 million years ago. And so here we now got a map that shows you in ancient British Columbia. This is kind of where we are. We're close to the equator and pretty far away from the continents. We're on a kind of shallow continental shelf where all sorts of weird, wicked animals like Morella were living, as well as Anomalocaris and all the really famous early Cambrian explosion animals are all in that area. And hopefully someday I'll be able to add their fossils to this exhibit. So there are maps that are available to see in the Burgess Shale exhibit. If I run over to the Martin Formation, there's a map in that one. There is a map in the Coconino Sandstone, and there's also a map available to look at over here in the Moreno Hill Formation. So there's been some minor updates to those. I accidentally just teleported to the Turney Ranch, of which we'll hopefully get an update fairly soon. As you can imagine, there's so much material that I want to show, and I want to emphasize opening new exhibits. But at the same time, I have to, I'm also reworking old exhibits and trying to upgrade all of that stuff. So it's a really difficult balance picking what I want to add and what I want to show in each of these updates as we work through the game beta. So for this update, I've added 4 new exhibits. That's the most number of new exhibits in one go we've done thus far. I'm hoping to beat that record, hopefully. But this was a lot of work, so we'll see if I'm able to do that. The first one is the Kaibab Limestone, second is the Moenkopi Formation, and then the Thanes Group. And finally, we're going to end at the Blue Lias. So I'm going to take you through these exhibits and kind of tell you a little story about the way that the Earth changed from the Permian, when the Earth looked like this, and by the time we're finished, the Earth is going to look a little bit more like that. Pangaea is formed, and now Pangaea is breaking apart. So we're starting our journey today 270 million years ago in the Kaibab Limestone. As is the case with a lot of these early exhibits, I'm working with material that's local to me in these local collections. So this is based out of Arizona, where I live and I grew up. And as a matter of fact, these shells right here of Dictyoclastus are actually from the Grand Canyon. So these were collected in the north side of the state, and you can run on jumping them as you want. This is a good candidate for parkouring if you wish, or again, if you want to cheat and just enter free mode to teleport on top, you can. So this is the Kaibab limestone. This is a marine deposit that is just off kind of this prong of Pangaea over here. So we're just kind of in, again, not quite equatorial, but we're still a pretty warm, shallow sea here, 270 million years ago. And we have brachiopods, like Ditiaclostus, as well as bivalves, like Schizotis. So these are two different types of shelled animals, and they belong to different groups, even though they look very similar. So these larger ones, they may look like clams, but they actually belong to an entirely different phylum, Brachiopoda, the brachiopods. And within that, the order of Productids, which are these really big versions of the brachiopods. So they are not actually clams, whereas Schizotis of the phylum Mollusca and the class Bivalvia, these are where true modern clams are actually nested within this family tree. Schizotis is not around anymore, but going back to the Permian, we have members of this class Bivalvia, and the bivalves actually go back very far. But in this period of time, it's the brachiopods that are much more common. And at the end of the Permian period, there's a mass extinction that happens that's going to, in part, kind of shift the balance. And you'll see reversals in groups like these. Schizotis gets that name, and it's not really possible to see it on this fossil, unfortunately, but on the hinge line, they have a bunch of kind of scissor-shaped structures on the hinge line, the opposing parts. That's where it gets the name Schizotis. So there's those fun facts on the side. Schizotis refers to the scissor-like teeth on the shell's hinge, and the shells shown here were collected from the Grand Canyon. So that's a little dip into the waters of the Permian. We know that as the Permian ends, there is a massive extinction, the biggest one that we know of, that occurs, that wipes out all different types of groups. And in a short period of time, relatively speaking, we have a recovery, and the groups that survive are evolving and taking on new forms and new shapes. And we arrive now at 245 million years ago. We've advanced to the Triassic period. This is where the earliest dinosaurs are going to start to appear, but not quite yet. So here in the Moenkopi Formation, again, we're at 245 million years ago, and the first thing you're going to see is this big track, this trackway that has this foot here and this foot here. These two belong to an ichnotaxon called Isochirotherium. So an ichnotaxon, as explained over here, is basically a name that's used to describe a behavior, a trace that's preserved in the fossil record. So Isochirotherium are literally these footprints. They don't refer to the animal that made them because we don't actually know for sure what animal made these footprints, or indeed like this giant four-toed track that's up here in the corner. It's definitely going to be, I will be revisiting this track and kind of observing more of the things that I see here and naming them, but the major one that I wanted to point out just to start is this Isochirotherium on the bottom, and here's a little bit of an explanation of that. So we have large, they're possibly reptiles, they're also possibly in this group we used to call mammal-like reptiles, from which the true mammals eventually split off. Here in the Triassic you find a ton of these animals, the temnospondylus, also called metoposaurs. And this is Eocyclotosaurus. It's got this flat skull with almost kind of a waffling texture on top. And we'll have more fossils of metoposaurs to show you in the future here. This is just a taste of Eocyclotosaurus from the Moenkopi. Over here I'm going to point out that the bivalves, of course, survived that mass extinction at the end of the Permian, because here they are, class Bivalvia. And this time our bivalve is Pseudomenotus. And these are some shells that were picked up in Utah. So the track that's over in the corner over here, this is Isochirotherium. These are Pseudomenotus. I'm also going to point out real quick, if you didn't see this in the last update, when you go to the inspection pages now, you of course have your fossil to look at, you have your scale in the corner here, you have your information, and then you have the QR code to scan. And again, this is something where if you have your second device, your phone, you're able to scan that and pull up an information page. But in addition to that, you can now just press the button, in this case it's Q, and it will pull up the information page in the Steam overlay. So as you're playing, if you want more information about select animals on display, I don't have pages written for everything quite yet. And if you want to support me while I do that writing, you can subscribe to the Parent-Teacher Guide to Paleontology on Patreon. It's just $3 a month to get a new article every single week delivered to your inbox. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and use those. So we've got those three animals, but the star of this exhibit is Arizonosaurus. And here's a little portion of that animal skeleton that we have. This is mostly kind of the back part of the hips. You have the ilium, which is kind of the top part of the hip. You have the ischium, which is kind of the backwards facing side. You have the vertebrae that go in between the left and right ilium. This is called the sacrum. And then you have these two fragments that form the femur. That's your upper leg bone. And then in the middle we have a mid-dorsal vertebra. That means it's one of the bones in the spine in kind of the middle of the rib cage there. And you can see it's got this tall spine that sticks on top of it. And it's broken. We think that actually the spine would have gone on to be much taller. And as with all the exhibits, if you feel so inclined, you may climb on them because you cannot harm 3D models, right? You know, in order to make these, I had to carefully handle the real fossils and scan them. But now that they're in SHADOWBOX, like, you can't do anything to these. So, you know, feel free to come up, inspect, look closely, jump on them, do whatever you like. And so there's Arizonosaurus. There's some decent chunks of the skeleton. I'm definitely looking forward to scanning more of it. There are multiple skeletons, and this is just one of the ones that's available in public collections. And kind of uniquely for SHADOWBOX so far, I've enabled a direct link between this exhibit, which represents a terrestrial ecosystem. So if we're looking at this map of Pangaea 245 million years ago, you can see we're kind of on this bump over here. We're on the coast. But over here, we can teleport directly to the Thanes group. And the Thanes group is kind of the marine equivalent to the terrestrial exhibit. So if we go down to the Thanes group, we're still at 145 million years ago, but now we're in the waters just off the coast here. And we have this fantastic fossil. This is a partial skull of a big predatory fish called Bergeria. It's not quite as big as it might be implied from its size in this exhibit. Everything in SHADOWBOX, just like breakfast cereal, is emphasized to show texture. The true scale is over there in the corner. But it's a really interesting piece, and you can zoom in to see all of the teeth of this carnivorous fish. So this is Bergeria. And it's just cool to think that you can jump from the terrestrial side to the marine side and move back and forth. This is something that I'm definitely going to be integrating into lots of exhibits moving forward. But now we're going to head back to the lobby, and we're going to advance in time one more time. There's another mass extinction that happens at the end of the Triassic period, which wipes out a lot of different types of, again, those mammal-like reptiles, as the term used to be. Animals like the metoposaurs, the temnospondyls, become much more rare. They survive, but they're much more rare compared to the Triassic. So we advance one more time into the Jurassic period. We can see just from this map back here that the continents are starting to split apart. By the way, this is the first exhibit to be showcasing fossils outside of North America, so we finally branched out. We've got our first dig site in England in the United Kingdom, and this is the Blue Lias. So the Blue Lias is one of the deposits that the very famous English paleontologist Mary Anning was actually collecting in. Mary Anning is possibly the origin of the common tongue twister, she sells seashells by the seashore. That's at least who it's commonly attributed to. In reality, the evidence doesn't say one way or another. We don't have direct proof it is or isn't about her. It's just a fun fact to repeat. And in this gallery, we have two ammonites of different species, Androgenoceros on this side and Leiporoceros on this side. And again, this is one fossil that I managed to come across and scan, and I've really pushed the limits to how much you can how many different angles you can show off the exact same object multiple times. And again, if you'd like to fly around to get a better look at these guys, you certainly can. This is really exciting. I'm a big fan of ammonites, but there aren't a ton of them in the Southwest. So England is one of the places where ammonites are really well known. They're in Utah, they're in Colorado, but it's going to take me some time to get my hands on a bunch of additional ammonites. So I was really, really excited to be showing this first exhibit in the Jurassic, first exhibit from England. I've teleported to the Geological Eras Tour, which is going to take a second to load. One of the things we're trying to work on is making the loading screen actually extend so that you only pop up, you only see the exhibit once it's actually loaded, so you're not teleporting in and then seeing stuff pop in. But anyway, we end our journey at about 200 million years ago in the Blue Lias with these ammonites. But if you want to take that journey in reverse, for example, you can just walk back in time this way through the Geological Eras Tour. And we can see we're just passing the Chinle Formation. We've got to run back to the early Middle Triassic to get to what we were looking at earlier. I can see Eocyclotosaurus and Bergeria coming up in the distance. So again, here are these teleporters for the Thanes group and the Moenkopi Formation. If you would like to, if you're walking through this linear exhibit and you want to jump into any of those, you can just hit those teleporters. And then we continue moving back in time until we hit in the Permian, where we can see the Kaibab limestone. So we've gone ahead and made that journey backwards and forwards now. This slice of time, the 70 million year slice of time from 270 to 200, is a really unique slice because it encompasses like the full formation of Pangaea and then the beginning of its split. And while England might be thought of today, obviously, as part of an island, the British Isles, surrounded by water, back in the earliest Jurassic, it's just kind of starting to be this area with marine environments around it. And of course, as always, I'm always adding small fossils here and there into the mural, so you can get a better and better idea of how the animals and plants have changed over time. Direct your attention to a couple of choice pieces. This is a nice chunk of coral from, what are we in, the Silurian? And this was not an object that I even had seen before. Basically, on Thursday, the day that I pushed the update, I saw this in a collection that I was going through. I photographed it, I scanned it, produced the 3D model, loaded it into SHADOWBOX, created the LODs, and then pushed the game update. So from over the course of maybe 4 or 5 hours, from not even knowing that this coral existed to now it's available for anybody with a computer anywhere in the world to see. That's what I really like. That's what I find really powerful about this project. And I hope that you guys have a lot of fun exploring these new exhibits. Check out the old ones as well, of course. And I'm going to be continuing to work as hard as I can on bringing new updates and new fossils, new features to really help flesh out as much of the story of Earth's history as I can. If you'd like to support the project, I direct you to hit your escape, hit credits, and if you go over to the donor credit side, you can send in a one-time donation if you don't want to sign up for anything on Patreon. If you're like, yeah, I can't really afford $12 a month to see your expedition videos right when they come out, and maybe I don't even have the $6 a month to get your Q&As and book reviews. Maybe I don't even have $3 a month that I can lend to see a new article every single week. I get it, right? I've been a student for most of my life, and I definitely get not being able to offer up support. And that's part of the reason why I strive to make as much of this freely available as possible, because I don't want anybody to feel left behind. However, it's not free for me to create this stuff, and obviously I have expenses that I need to cover, and I want to be able to commission artwork for the game as well. So if you'd like to send in a one-time donation, you can head on to patreon.com/ptpaleo/shop. You can look for one-time donation tags, and your name and a short quote, depending on the tier that you donate at, is going to be available here in the credits forever. So if you'd like to leave a mark and show your support for this project and for natural history, that's the way I would recommend. Again, thank you so much for everybody who has played this game so far and is offering information that helps us improve the game, make it more accessible for everybody. And I'm looking forward to continuing to push this as far as I can possibly go. So that's our update. This came out July 31st, so this is our big July Midsummer update, and I will continue pushing them out as time goes on. And there's some really exciting stuff in the pipeline that I'm not going to talk about yet, but rest assured that this is far from the end of the big, cool new stuff to see in the year 2025. So look forward to it, and I will see you guys next time.